Hey, welcome back. I'm Gavin, if we've never met before. And today we're going to keep talking about decision making and specifically your decision, because I bet you have one right now that you are thinking about. In fact, you've been thinking about it for months, maybe years. Last time on the pod, we talked about this as well. But today I'm going to give you a different question and a different way of thinking about it. Now, for you, the decision may be a staffing change that you are pondering, you need to make, not sure you should make. Maybe it's a program that should have ended, but you're not sure, a conversation that you just kind of keep rescheduling in your own head, by the way. And here's what's interesting about these decisions. You are a capable leader. You've made hard calls before. So why is this one different? Why is this one making you feel stuck? And when you think about it, you can't even fully explain why. So today, I'm going to give you a different question that might unstick the decision process. And then I want to go somewhere a little deeper than I did on the blog today, because there's an actual kind of follow-up question I think that we can ask with this as well. So let's start with the question itself. The very first time I heard this question, it came from my former boss, friend, well, still friend, but former boss, mentor, Andy Stanley. I worked at North Point for a long time. I was a lead pastor for 13 years and led in a partnership church for a few years before that. And so I understand this space. I loved working with North Point with Andy. And I'll tell you, Andy is an incredible leader. And the first time I ever heard this question, it came from him. And it was a very simple question. He was telling us a story in our lead team meeting one day, just about a decision that he had to make at some point in his past. He wasn't sure what to do. He was meeting with a mentor, and the mentor looked at him over their breakfast meal and said, "Well, Andy, let me ask you a question. What would a great leader do?" That's the question. What would a great leader do? That's it. Now, I know that sounds almost too simple, right? It's painfully simple. That's the problem. But sit with your stalled decision for a minute and ask that question honestly. Like, watch what happens. I'll tell you what's going to happen. The clutter is going to get clear. The emotions that you're feeling around the decision are going to kind of step back. The mess is going to start organizing itself. And here's the part that nobody's going to warn you about. You'll know the answer almost immediately. What would a great leader do? That is an uncomfortable question because it removes your favorite excuse. Let me explain why this question works so well, because I think understanding the mechanics really do matter here. You know, the stalled decisions that we have in our leadership life really are often mostly proximity problems. I talked about this in the pod last time, right? You know the staff member's family, like you remember who started that ministry and you're still friends with them and you know the price you will pay for changing it. Like you've watched the history unfold from the inside and you're carrying the relationships and the backstory, the loyalty, the history, and all of that is very, very real. And none of it changes, by the way, what needs to happen. You know, proximity creates empathy, which is not a bad thing, but it also creates paralysis, which as a leader is a bad thing. In fact, the closer you are to a decision, the thicker the fog gets. And before long, you're managing feelings instead of leading forward. The pressure that you feel is the gap between what you know and what you're willing to do. So that question, what would a great leader do? It closes that gap. It skips right past what's comfortable, what's keeping the peace, you know, what you can defend at the next elders meeting or board meeting. And I mean, it aims at greatness, doesn't it? Like, what would a great leader do? It really kind of points you as far to greatness as you can. And once you've kind of named what a great leader would do, if they were you, what would a great leader do? Confusion is off the table. And the only thing left to do is call it what it's been, avoidance. Now, some of you have probably heard other versions of this question before, like what would my replacement do? I asked that in the last podcast. I think that's a great question, and it's a helpful thought experiment, right? Because your replacement would walk in with no history, They would look at the org chart and the budget and they would just act immediately, right? I told a story in the last pod about that. I mean, when I walked into Watermark Church as a leader, I had no history there. And so decisions that needed to be made, I wasn't entangled by the emotion of it. We just made the decision, or I made the decision with maybe some people kicking and screaming along the way, but because they were close to it and they understood it differently. So your replacement would act without the relationships. A great leader, and this is why I love this question, carries those relationships into the decision and still makes it anyway. You can keep your heart and still make the hard call. Now, the question also, though, tells you, right? It tells you what to do. It doesn't say anything about how to do it. And so the how, I think, is where most pastors kind of get hurt or hurt others, and where churches and church people get hurt. So the second question that I want to just tag onto this, I think rides alongside the first one. How would a great leader do it? What would a great leader do? And then how would a great leader do it? Listen, here's the danger. Some leaders hear what would a great leader do and treat it like permission to be ruthless or to lack integrity with others, right? So they act, the leader acts, but they act like a detached replacement instead of the connected shepherd that they signed up to be. So they make the right call, but they make it in the wrong way. And the wrong way creates a whole nother set of problems. In fact, if you really want to erode trust and make everybody on the staff nervous and congregation people leave, just make a good decision and do it in the wrong way. People will quickly forget that the decision was right if they feel like it was handled wrong. So a great leader would end the program, sure, but a great leader would also honor the people who built it as it's leading to an end. A great leader would move the misaligned staff member, absolutely. And a great leader would have that conversation face to face with generosity, with real transition plans, with dignity intact, and do everything they can to protect that other person in the process. So what would a great leader do? I think that question can give you the decision. How would a great leader do it? That question protects the people and the culture as you execute that necessary decision. And you need both, right? The first without the second makes you kind of reckless, ruthless. The second without the first keeps you stuck. Together, they make you trustworthy. So, what would a great leader do? Ask that question and then follow it up with how would a great leader do it?